My parents changed my locks and made me sleep at a friend's house because I broke curfew at 28 in my own home. So I called the cops and evicted them. 3 years later, mom's in prison and dad's texting apologies from jail. When the hour was up, I stood on my front lawn with my support crew while my family remained barricaded inside my house. Jenny had her phone ready to record everything, and Mrs. Parker had come over from next door, shaking her head at the whole situation. I knocked on the door one more time. Time's up. Open the door or I'm calling the police. My mother's voice came through the door, dripping with fake sweetness. Sweetheart, let's talk about this like adults. You're being dramatic. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. The operator answered, and I explained the situation clearly. My name is Alexandra Thompson. I own the house at 427 Maple Street. My family members are refusing to leave my property after I've asked them to vacate. I need police assistance for an eviction. Through the window, I saw my brother's face go pale. He started arguing with my mother, gesturing wildly. My sister-in-law was gathering the kids, looking panicked. 2 police cruisers arrived within 15 minutes. Officers Martinez and Thompson, no relation, approached me first. I showed them my deed, my driver's license, and explained the situation. Officer Martinez nodded sympathetically. Ma'am, we'll help resolve this peacefully. Can you confirm these individuals don't have a lease agreement or any legal right to the property? They don't. They're family members I allowed to stay temporarily, but they changed the locks and refused me entry last night. The officers approached my front door. My mother opened it before they could knock, immediately launching into her performance. Officers, thank goodness you're here. My daughter is having some kind of breakdown. We're just trying to help her through this difficult time. Officer Thompson remained professional. Ma'am, we need to see some documentation proving you have legal right to be in this residence. My mother's face shifted between confusion and indignation. Legal right? I'm her mother. I raised her. This is a family matter. That may be, but the homeowner has asked you to leave. Do you have a lease agreement? My brother appeared behind her, trying his smooth talking routine. Officers, this is all a misunderstanding. My sister gets emotional sometimes. We're family. We can work this out. Officer Martinez wasn't buying it. Sir, the homeowner has made her wishes clear. You need to gather your belongings and vacate the premises. That's when things escalated. My mother started wailing about her health conditions, claiming she'd have a heart attack if forced to leave. My brother accused me of elder abuse. His wife started crying that I was traumatizing their children. The whole neighborhood was watching this circus unfold on my front lawn. Jenny stepped forward with her phone. I've been recording this entire interaction, officers. Last night, they locked her out of her own home. She had to sleep at my place. Mrs. Parker chimed in. I witnessed it myself. This poor girl was begging to get into her own house at midnight. It was shameful. The officers gave my family 30 minutes to pack essential items. My mother tried every manipulation in her playbook. She clutched her chest, claiming chest pains. When the officers offered to call an ambulance, she miraculously recovered. She tried calling other relatives on speaker, wailing about how I was throwing her onto the streets. My brother kept insisting I'd regret this. That family doesn't do this to family. I stood my ground, even though my hands were shaking. Jenny kept her arm around me, whispering encouragement. My other friends formed a protective circle, making sure my family couldn't corner me alone. When my brother started loading his sports car from my garage, he had the nerve to ask if I'd help him with a security deposit for a new place. I almost laughed at the audacity. My mother emerged with several of my belongings, claiming they were gifts she'd given me. Officer Martinez made her put them back. The kids, thankfully, seemed more excited about the police cars than upset about leaving. My sister-in-law shot me looks that could call, muttering about how I'd destroyed their family. I wanted to scream that they had destroyed our family by taking advantage of me, but I kept quiet. As they loaded the U-Haul, my mother made one last attempt. She approached me with tears streaming down her face. After everything I've done for you, all those years of sacrifice, this is how you repay me? For a moment, the old guilt tried to creep in. Then I remembered all the times she'd used those same tears to manipulate me, all the money I'd sent while living in squalor, all the opportunities I'd passed up to be the good daughter. Mom, I've repaid you 100 times over. $50,000 this year alone. I'm done being your ATM and your doormat. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. My brother loaded the last box and slammed the U-Haul door. You're going to die alone, he spat at me. No family, just your pathetic friends. Jenny stepped forward. These pathetic friends have shown her more genuine love and support than you ever have. The police escorted them off the property. I signed some paperwork, confirming I wanted them officially trespassed if they returned. As the U-Haul pulled away, my mother stared at me through the passenger window with pure hatred. My brother honked the horn repeatedly, disturbing the entire neighborhood one last time. When they were gone, I collapsed on my front steps. The adrenaline crash hit hard. Jenny sat beside me while my other friends started discussing locksmith options. Mrs. Parker brought over tea and cookies, patting my shoulder gently. You did the right thing, dear. That wasn't family. Family doesn't treat each other that way. The locksmith arrived within the hour. As he worked, I walked through my house, seeing the damage they'd left behind. Crayon on the walls, stains on my carpets. My organized kitchen turned into chaos. My home office was a disaster zone of broken toys and scattered papers. My master bedroom smelled like my mother's overwhelming perfume, but it was mine again. My friends stayed to help me start cleaning. We ordered pizza and made a party of it, blasting music and dancing while we scrubbed walls. I found myself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in months. Jenny documented the transformation, posting before and after photos that made me realize just how badly they'd trashed my sanctuary. That night, I slept in my bed, in my master bedroom, in my house. No guilt, no manipulation, no walking on eggshells, just peace. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. My mother had gone nuclear on Facebook, posting about her heartless daughter who threw out her elderly disabled mother. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years were calling me selfish, cruel, ungrateful. Some even had the nerve to ask if I'd at least help with their hotel bills. I blocked them all, but the real drama was just beginning. 3 days later, I came home from work to find my brother's car in my driveway. My blood ran cold. I immediately called Jenny and the police, not even attempting to go inside. While waiting for backup, I noticed something odd. My front door was slightly open. Through the window, I could see movement inside. My brother was in my house again, going through my things. The rage that filled me was indescribable. After everything, he had the audacity to break into my home. I started recording on my phone, capturing him through the window carrying my laptop toward the door. When the police arrived, I showed them the video. This time, it wasn't just about eviction. This was breaking and entering, burglary, criminal charges. My brother tried to run when he saw the police cars. He dropped my laptop, shattering it on the driveway, and sprinted toward his car. The officer officers caught him easily. As they cuffed him, he screamed that I was ruining his life, that he just needed to borrow some money, that family helps family. I watched them put him in the police car, feeling nothing but exhaustion. This wasn't the brother who used to push me on the swings. This was a stranger who saw me as nothing more than a resource to exploit. The officers found that he'd broken a back window to get in. He'd ransacked my home office, clearly looking for valuables. My jewelry box was emptied on my bed. My emergency cash stash was gone. He'd even tried to take my television off the wall. I had to file a full police report. The officers took photos of everything. They found my brother's tools in the backyard, evidence of his planned theft. One officer mentioned he'd seen similar family situations before, where entitlement turned into criminal behavior when the money train stopped. As I surveyed the damage, Jenny arrived with reinforcements. My friends had created a schedule to make sure I was never alone at the house. They helped me install security cameras, new locks, and even a security system. Mrs. Parker offered to keep an eye out during the day. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every noise made me jump. I kept checking the locks, peering out windows, expecting to see my family lurking in the shadows. The violation of my space felt worse than before. They'd shown me that even legal boundaries meant nothing to them. The next morning brought more drama. My mother showed up at my workplace, causing a scene in the lobby. Security had to escort her out as she screamed about pressing charges against me for elder abuse. My boss called me into his office, concerned about the disruption. I had to explain the whole situation, showing him the police reports to prove I was the victim, not the perpetrator. Word spread through the office. Some coworkers were supportive, sharing their own stories of toxic families. Others whispered behind my back, wondering what kind of person throws out their own mother. I ate lunch in my car just to avoid the stares. That afternoon, my sister-in-law called from an unknown number. Before I could hang up, she quickly said my brother was in jail and needed bail money. The audacity floored me. He broke into my house, stole my things, and they wanted me to pay for his release? I hung up and blocked the number, but they weren't done. That evening, as I was cooking dinner, I heard commotion outside. Through my security camera app, I saw my mother on my front lawn with a group of people I recognized as extended family. They were holding signs, actual signs. Family forgives. Honor thy mother. Heartless daughter. My own family was picketing my house. I called the police again, feeling like a broken record. The dispatcher recognized my address. Ma'am, we'll send someone right away. While waiting, I watched through the cameras as my mother performed for the gathering crowd. She was telling anyone who would listen about how I'd abandoned her, how she'd sacrificed everything to raise me, how I'd chosen money over blood. Mrs. Parker marched out of her house with her garden hose. "Get off this property before I water you like the weeds you are," she shouted. God bless that woman. The police arrived and dispersed the crowd. My mother was warned that if she returned, she'd be arrested for trespassing and harassment. The extended family members slunk away, some shooting me dirty looks through my windows. I thought that would be the end, but I underestimated my mother's determination to punish me for standing up to her. The next morning, I woke to find my car tires slashed, all 4 of them. The security footage showed a figure in a hoodie, but I knew that walk. It was my dad. The man who taught me to ride a bike was now vandalizing my property because I wouldn't let them control my life anymore. I filed another police report, adding to my growing collection. The officer taking my statement looked sympathetic but tired. Family disputes can get ugly, he said, like that somehow made it better. The tow truck driver who came to replace my tires mentioned he'd seen worse, which wasn't exactly comforting. Work became my only escape, except even that was tainted. My mother had somehow gotten my office number and left voicemails with the receptionist about her ungrateful daughter who abandoned her sick mother. My boss pulled me aside again, this time suggesting I might want to take some personal time to sort things out. I couldn't afford to lose my job on top of everything else, so I promised him the disruptions would stop. Jenny came over that evening with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. We sat on my living room floor, eating straight from the containers while I showed her the latest security footage. She shook her head in disbelief. "Your dad? I can't believe he'd do that." "I know," I said, poking at my lo mein. "He used to be the reasonable one. Now he's just as bad as mom." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of my childhood bedroom at my parents' old house, with all my old stuffed animals and trophies. The message read, "Remember when you used to love us?" I showed Jenny, who immediately took my phone. "That's it. We're changing your number tomorrow." But changing my number wouldn't stop them from knowing where I lived, where I worked, who my friends were. They'd spent months in my house, going through my things. They knew everything about my life. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. I went to work, came home, checked my cameras obsessively. My friends took turns staying over, making sure I wasn't alone. Mrs. Parker left casseroles on my doorstep with notes saying she was praying for me. Even my other neighbors, who I'd barely spoken to before, started checking in. Then Friday arrived with a new nightmare. I came home to find an eviction notice taped to my door. My heart stopped. How could I be evicted from my own house? I ripped it down and read through it, my hands shaking. It claimed I hadn't paid my mortgage in 3 months. I immediately called my bank. After being transferred 4 times and spending 2 hours on hold, I finally reached someone who could help. They confirmed my autopay had been canceled 3 months ago, the exact time my family had moved in. They'd been intercepting my mail, canceling my payments, trying to force me into foreclosure. "But I never authorized this," I told the bank representative, my voice cracking. "According to our records, you called and canceled it yourself," she said. "Would you like me to reinstate it?" I knew I hadn't made that call. My mother had access to all my information when she lived here. She'd pretended to be me, sabotaged my finances, tried to steal my house from under me. The calculation of it all made me physically sick. I spent the weekend in crisis mode. Jenny helped me contact a lawyer, who assured me we could fight the eviction, but warned it would be expensive. I had to pay the back mortgage payments immediately, plus late fees, plus legal fees. There went my emergency fund, the same emergency fund my brother had tried to steal. My friends rallied around me. They set up a meal train so I wouldn't have to worry about cooking. They helped me change every password, every account, every automatic payment. We found 3 credit cards opened in my name that I hadn't authorized. My mother had destroyed my credit while living under my roof, eating my food, using my electricity. Monday morning brought a new low. I arrived at work to find my desk cleaned out, my belongings in a box. HR called me in to explain that my personal situation was affecting the workplace. Apparently, my mother had been calling clients, telling them I was mentally unstable and shouldn't be trusted with their accounts. 3 major clients had threatened to leave the firm. "We're not firing you," the HR manager said carefully. "We're suggesting you take an extended unpaid leave until things settle down." Unpaid leave, with a mortgage to catch up on, legal fees piling up, and no emergency fund left. I packed my box and left, feeling everyone's eyes on me. The shame burned hot shot in my chest. I'd worked so hard to build my career, and my mother had destroyed it with a few phone calls. I sat in my car in the parking garage, staring at the steering wheel. For the first time since this all started, I wondered if I should just give in, let them have the house, move away, start over somewhere they couldn't find me. But then I thought about all those years of sacrifice, all those nights of ramen, all those dreams I'd put on hold. This was my life, and I wasn't going to let them take it. Jenny met me for lunch, took one look at my face, and immediately knew something was wrong. When I told her about my job, she slammed her hand on the table so hard our water glasses jumped. "That's it," she said. "We're going on the offensive." She was right. I'd been playing defense since this started, just reacting to their attacks. It was time to fight back. We spent the afternoon making a plan. First, document everything. Every text, every voicemail, every incident. Second, pursue criminal charges for the identity theft and fraud. Third, get restraining orders against all of them. Fourth, sue for damages. "But they don't have any money," I pointed out. "That's not the point," Jenny said. "The point is showing them there are consequences. Real, legal consequences." That evening, I met with the lawyer again. He reviewed everything and whistled low. "Your family really did a number on you, but we have a strong case. Identity theft, fraud, harassment, property damage. We can file criminal charges and pursue civil damages." The retainer fee made me wince, but what choice did I have? I signed the papers and wrote the check, watching my savings account dwindle even further. The next morning, I woke to find my front yard destroyed. Someone had driven through my flower beds, leaving deep tire tracks in the mud. My beautiful roses, the ones I'd planted to celebrate buying the house, were crushed. The security footage showed a truck doing donuts on my lawn at 3 a.m. The license plate was covered, but I recognized the truck. It belonged to Kyle, my brother's sketchy friend, the one my mother had tried to move into my basement. I stood on my porch, surveying the damage, when Mrs. Parker appeared with coffee and a grim expression. "I saw them," she said. "Called the police, but they were gone before anyone arrived. That family of yours is pure evil." I accepted the coffee gratefully. "They're not my family anymore." "Good," she said firmly. "Family doesn't do this. This is war." She was right. This was war, and I was losing. Every day brought new attacks, new problems, new expenses. My lawyer filed the restraining orders, but my family had to be served first. They were avoiding service, moving between relatives' houses, always one step ahead. Meanwhile, the harassment continued. Dead flowers appeared on my doorstep. My new tires were slashed again. Someone spray-painted "ungrateful" on my garage door. Every incident meant another police report, another insurance claim, another hit to my finances and sanity. My friends tried to help, but they had their own lives. Jenny was planning her wedding. My other friends had jobs, families, obligations. I couldn't expect them to babysit me forever. The isolation was crushing. This was exactly what my family wanted, to wear me down until I broke. 2 weeks into my forced leave, I got a call from my cousin Sarah. She was one of the few relatives who'd stayed neutral, not taking sides. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "I need to tell you something," she said without preamble. "Your mom's been planning this for months, before they even moved in. I thought you should know." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean planning?" Sarah sighed. "She told Aunt Linda that once they were in your house, they'd never leave. That possession is 9/10 of the law. She researched squatters' rights, tenant laws, everything. She knew exactly what she was doing." The premeditation of it all hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a family falling on hard times and taking advantage. This was a calculated attack on my life, my success, my future. My own mother had studied how to steal my house from me. "There's more," Sarah continued. "She's been telling everyone you're having a mental breakdown, that you're on substances, that you need to be institutionalized. She's trying to build a case to have you declared incompetent." I had to sit down. The room spun around me. My own mother was trying to have me committed to steal my house. The betrayal was so complete, so devastating that I couldn't even cry. I just felt numb. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because what they're doing is wrong," Sarah said simply. "And because I remember when you were little, how you always shared your Halloween candy with me. You were always kind. You don't deserve this." After we hung up, I called my lawyer immediately. He took the new information seriously, adding it to our case. But he warned me to be careful. False allegations of mental illness could be hard to disprove, especially with my recent erratic behavior of calling the police on my family. That night, I installed more cameras. I started recording every interaction, every phone call. I kept a detailed journal of everything that happened. If they wanted to claim I was crazy, I'd have evidence of my sanity and their harassment. The next day brought a new tactic. My sister-in-law showed up at my door with the kids. Just her and the children. No brother or parents in sight. The kids ran up to the door calling, "Auntie, Auntie, we miss you." My heart broke. Those kids were innocent in all this, but I couldn't open the door. I watched through the camera as my sister-in-law coached them to cry louder, to beg to come inside. She actually pinched the youngest to make him cry harder. I recorded it all, evidence of them using children as weapons. When I didn't answer, she started screaming, "You're traumatizing these children. They love you. How can you be so heartless?" Mrs. Parker came out again, this time with her phone already recording. "You're the one traumatizing them, using them like this. Shame on you." My sister-in-law grabbed the kids and stormed off, but not before the oldest looked back at the camera and waved sadly. I waved back, even though he couldn't see me, and finally let myself cry. Jenny came over that night with wine and tissues. We sat on my couch, going through old photos on my phone, pictures of family barbecues, Christmas mornings, birthday parties. All those memories tainted now by the knowledge that they'd been planning to destroy me. "Delete them," Jenny said. "All of them. They don't deserve space in your phone or your head." But I couldn't. Not yet. Maybe I was still hoping to wake up from this nightmare, to have my family back. The family I thought I had, not the one that actually existed. The restraining orders were finally served a week later. My mother was caught at the grocery store. My father at his brother's house. My brother was served in jail. The orders required them to stay 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace. You'd think that would give me peace, but it only escalated things. Now they couldn't approach me directly, so they got creative. They sent other relatives I barely knew to plead their case. They had friends leave notes on my car. They even got their church involved, with the pastor calling to talk about forgiveness and family reconciliation. I changed my phone number, but they found the new one within days. I suspected they'd gotten to someone at my phone company, another violation of my privacy. Every safe space I had was contaminated by their reach. The legal bills kept mounting. Between the lawyer, the security system upgrades, the property repairs, and the lost income from my forced leave, I was burning through money faster than ever. The financial pressure was crushing. I'd worked so hard to build my savings, and watching it disappear felt like losing pieces of myself. myself. 3 weeks into my leave, my former boss called. Not HR, but my actual boss, the one who'd mentored me for years. I'm not supposed to be calling you, he said, but I wanted you to know we're fighting for you here. Some of us know what you're going through isn't your fault. Don't give up. It was the first good news I'd had in weeks. Maybe I hadn't lost everything. Maybe there was still hope for my career. I thanked him and promised to keep fighting. That afternoon, I got a certified letter. My hands shook as I opened it, expecting another legal threat. Instead, it was from my brother's lawyer. He was suing me for emotional distress and false imprisonment. The audacity was breathtaking. He broke into my house, stole from me, and now he was suing me for having him arrested. My lawyer laughed when I called him. This is desperation. He has no case, but it means we're winning. They're running out of moves. But fighting the lawsuit meant more legal fees, more court dates, more stress. It felt like death by 1,000 cuts. Every time I thought I was getting ahead, they found a new way to attack. The breaking point came a month after I'd kicked them out. I was at the grocery store trying to maintain some normalcy when I ran into my aunt. Not one of the flying monkeys my mother had sent, but my father's sister, who'd always been kind to me. She looked at me sadly. You look terrible, honey. I caught my reflection in the freezer door. She was right. I'd lost weight, my hair was a mess, and the bags under my eyes had their own bags. The stress was eating me alive. Your mother's telling everyone you're on substances, my aunt continued. That's why you're so thin and paranoid. Some people are starting to believe her. I'm not on substances, I said weakly. I'm just trying to survive. My aunt hugged me, right there in the frozen food aisle. I know, honey, I know, but maybe you should consider moving. Starting fresh somewhere they can't hurt you anymore. I thought about it all the way home. Maybe she was right. Maybe the house wasn't worth this. Maybe I should just sell it and disappear. But when I pulled into my driveway and saw my home, I felt that familiar surge of determination. This house represented everything I'd worked for. I wasn't going to let them take it from me. That night, I made a decision. I called my lawyer and told him to accelerate everything. File all the charges, pursue all the damages, push for the maximum penalties. No more playing defense. It was time to show my family that their actions had real consequences. Are you sure? He asked. Once we do this, there's no going back. The criminal charges especially, those could mean serious jail time for your family. I'm sure, I said. They made their choice when they decided to destroy my life. Now, I'm making mine. The next morning, I woke up feeling different, lighter somehow. The decision to fight back fully, completely, without holding back, had lifted a weight I didn't know I was carrying. I wasn't trying to preserve a relationship that didn't exist anymore. I was fighting for my life, my future, my peace. Jenny noticed the change immediately when she came over. You look different. Good different. I'm done feeling guilty, I told her. Done trying to protect people who are actively trying to destroy me. They want a war? They've got one. We spent the day organizing all my evidence. Security footage, police reports, bank statements, phone records. The pile was damning. My family had committed fraud, identity theft, harassment, stalking, property damage, and more. Seeing it all laid out like that, I realized just how much I'd been minimizing their behavior. My lawyer was impressed. This is enough to put them away for years, he said. Are you prepared for that? I thought about my brother's kids, about my parents getting old in prison. Then I thought about my slashed tires, my destroyed credit, my lost job, my shattered sense of security. They were prepared to destroy me, I said. So yes, I'm prepared. The next few days were a flurry of legal activity. Charges were filed, warrants were issued. My family was about to learn that their actions had consequences. Real, serious, life-altering consequences. But they had one more card to play, and it was their cruelest yet. I came home from a meeting with my lawyer to find a woman on my porch. She was professionally dressed, carrying a clipboard, looking official. My stomach dropped. Ms. Thompson, I'm from Adult Protective Services. We received a report that you're experiencing a mental health crisis and may be a danger to yourself and others. My mother had done it. She'd actually called APS and tried to have me committed. The woman was kind but thorough, asking questions about my mental state, my living situation, my support system. I answered calmly, showed her my documentation of the harassment, explained the situation. She nodded sympathetically. I see this sometimes in family disputes. I'll note in my report that you appear to be of sound mind and that this seems to be a retaliatory complaint, but I do have to complete the investigation. After she left, I sat on my porch and laughed. Actually laughed. The absurdity of it all was overwhelming. My mother had literally tried to have me institutionalized to steal my house. You couldn't make this stuff up. Jenny found me there an hour later, still sitting on the porch, occasionally giggling to myself. Okay, now I'm worried, she said. Are you actually having a breakdown? No, I said, wiping tears of laughter from my eyes. I'm just realizing how insane this all is. My mother tried to have me committed, like we're in some Victorian novel where they lock up inconvenient women. It's so crazy, it's almost funny. Jenny sat beside me. You know what? You're right. It is absurd. And you know what else? You're winning. They're getting desperate, throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. But you're still here, still fighting, still standing. She was right. Despite everything they'd thrown at me, I was still here. Battered, exhausted, financially drained, but still standing. And tomorrow, the real fight would begin. The next morning, I woke to find my mailbox on fire. Actually, on fire. The flames were already dying down by the time I noticed, but the damage was done. My mail, including what looked like important legal documents, was nothing but ash. The security footage showed a figure in dark clothing pouring lighter fluid at 4 a.m. I couldn't make out the face, but I recognized the limp. My dad had hurt his knee years ago and never quite walked the same. I called the fire department to file a report, then my lawyer to request duplicates of any documents. He sounded increasingly concerned. This is escalating beyond harassment. They're destroying evidence now. That afternoon, the criminal charges were officially filed. My mother was charged with identity theft, fraud, and harassment. My father with property damage and stalking. My brother already faced burglary charges, and now we added theft and breaking and entering. The prosecutor assigned to the case called me personally. We're taking this very seriously, she said. Family abuse cases often escalate to violence. Please be careful. Her warning proved prophetic. 2 nights later, I woke to the sound of breaking glass. Someone was throwing rocks at my windows. I grabbed my phone, called 911, and huddled in my bathroom, watching the security feed. 3 figures were in my yard. One looked like Kyle again, but the other 2 were new. They were systematically breaking every window they could reach. The police arrived quickly this time, but the vandals had fled. My living room window was shattered, glass everywhere. 2 bedroom windows were cracked. The officers took photos and collected the rocks as evidence. One had a note rubber banded to it. This is what happens to ungrateful daughters. Jenny arrived within minutes of my call, stepping carefully through the glass. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. Pack a bag. You're staying with me tonight, but I shook my head. Number, this is my house. I'm not leaving. We spent the night boarding up windows with plywood from the hardware store. Mrs. Chen's husband came over to help, bringing his tools and refusing to take no for an answer. By dawn, my house looked like it was preparing for a hurricane, but it was secure. The next day brought unexpected hope. The prosecutor called with news. We arrested Kyle last night. He's talking. Says your family promised him $5,000 to help drive you out of the house. $5,000 they don't have, I said. That's what he discovered. He's angry and willing to testify. This is good for our case. Kyle's testimony revealed the depth of my family's planning. They'd been recruiting people for months, promising money they'd assumed they'd get once they controlled my house. They'd researched how to force someone into foreclosure, how to have someone declared mentally incompetent, even how to forge documents to steal property ownership. My lawyer was ecstatic. This changes everything. It's not just harassment anymore. It's conspiracy. Organized crime, essentially. The arrests happened simultaneously. I watched from my window as police cars pulled up to my uncle's house across town, where my parents had been staying. My mother was let out in handcuffs, still in her nightgown, screaming about police brutality and elder abuse. My father followed quietly, his head down. My phone rang. It was my aunt, the kind one. They just arrested your mother at my brother's house. This is really happening. Yes, I said. It's really happening. The bail hearing was set for the following Monday. I didn't attend, but my lawyer did. He called me afterward with the news. Bail was set high. Your mother's at $50,000, your father at $30,000, your brother at $40,000 for the burglary. They can't afford it. They were going to stay in jail until trial. The relief I felt was overwhelming. For the first time in months, I could breathe. I could sleep without jumping at every noise. I could exist in my own home without fear. But my family wasn't done. From jail, they continued their campaign. Other relatives I hadn't heard from in years started calling, texting, showing up at my door. The guilt trips were relentless. Your mother is in jail. She's old. She's sick. How can you do this? I had a standard response ready. She put herself in jail when she committed multiple felonies against me. Some relatives understood. Others didn't. I lost count of how many family members I had to block. My family tree was being pruned down to nothing, but the remaining branches were healthy. 2 weeks after the arrests, I got a call from my former workplace. It was HR, but this time with good news. We've been reviewing your situation. The clients who threatened to leave have reconsidered after learning about the criminal charges against your family. We'd like to offer you your position back, with full back pay for your leave period. I cried when I hung up. Happy tears this time. Jenny was with me, and we celebrated with takeout from my favorite restaurant. I was getting my life back, piece by piece. The trial date was set for 3 months out. In the meantime, I focused on rebuilding. I hired contractors to fix my windows properly. I had my lawn re-landscaped. I painted my walls, covering every trace of crayon and scuff mark. I was reclaiming my space, making it mine again. My brother's wife reached out through a mutual friend. She wanted to meet, just her, no kids. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop, both of us wary. I'm leaving him, she said without preamble. This whole thing opened my eyes. The gambling, the lying, the entitlement. I don't want my kids growing up thinking that's normal. We talked for 2 hours. She apologized for her part in everything, for using the kids as weapons. I gave her the contact information for my lawyer, in case she needed help with a divorce. It felt like gaining an ally instead of losing family. The pre-trial hearings were brutal. My family's lawyers tried every trick to get the charges reduced or dismissed. They claimed elder abuse, mental incompetence on my mother's part, even temporary insanity. The prosecutor shut down every attempt with the mountain of evidence we'd collected. My mother tried to represent herself at one hearing, firing her court-appointed lawyer. She stood up and launched into a rambling speech about ungrateful children and the sacrifices of motherhood. The judge cut her off after 2 minutes and appointed a new lawyer against her wishes. A week before the trial, my brother cracked. His lawyer contacted mine about a plea deal. He'd plead guilty to lesser charges in exchange for testimony against our parents. The prosecutor agreed, and suddenly we had an inside witness. My brother's testimony was damaging. He revealed conversations where my mother had detailed her plan to take my house, how she'd researched squatters' rights and tenant law, how she'd deliberately canceled my auto pay while intercepting my mail, how she'd been building a case for having me declared incompetent since before they'd even moved in. She said Alexandra didn't deserve the house, he testified, that she'd wasted her money on it instead of taking care of family. Mom said we'd get her out one way or another. My father broke next. Faced with my brother's testimony and the evidence of his vandalism, he pled guilty to all charges. During his allocution, he finally showed remorse. I let my wife convince me that we were entitled to our daughter's success. I was wrong. I destroyed my relationship with my daughter for greed. That left my mother, who refused any plea deal. She wanted a trial, convinced she could make a jury see her side. Her lawyer looked exhausted every time I saw him. The trial lasted 3 days. I had to testify, reliving every moment of harassment and abuse. My mother stared at me the entire time, her face twisted with rage. When the prosecutor showed the security footage of her watching me beg to get into my own house, several jurors shook their heads in disgust. My mother testified in her own defense against her lawyer's advice. She portrayed herself as a loving mother driven to desperation by an ungrateful daughter. She claimed I'd promised them the house, that I'd said they could live there forever. She even produced a forged document supposedly proving I'd agreed to give her the house. The prosecutor destroyed her testimony. The forensic document examiner testified that the signature was forged. Phone records showed the calls my mother had made pretending to be me. Bank records revealed the credit cards she'd opened in my name. By the end, even her own lawyer looked defeated. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours, guilty on all counts. As the verdict was read, my mother finally broke down, not with remorse, but with rage. She screamed that I'd destroyed the family, that I'd regret this, that she'd make sure I paid for what I'd done. The judge ordered her removed from the courtroom. Sentencing came a month later. My brother got 2 years probation and community service, thanks to his cooperation. My father got 18 months in minimum security prison. My mother got 5 years in state prison. As they led her away, she turned to look at me one last time. The hatred in her eyes was chilling, but I didn't look away. I'd won. I'd survived, and that was more than enough.